All right. This is going to be the section of the new agent course where we just focus on the introduction. So the last one, we basically we did a whole walk through the script with a little bit of commentary and extra stuff in there. But honestly, in my opinion, being able to get through the introduction is the most important part because, and I've mentioned this a few times already, but getting through the introduction allows you to get into more presentations. And at the end of the day, if you're getting double the amount of presentations as somebody else, even if they're a way better closer than you're going to make more money because you're getting more at bats. And it's also what's going to allow you to get more at bats and get better and get more reps closing in the beginning is being able to get through the introduction. So it's the most important piece to me. So I'm going to share my screen here. Got some notes pulled up, and also we're kind of going to verbally go through it for the most part. So also want to point out too on my YouTube channel here, I have a team training we did where I basically went over this training on the left. So I have a whole nother training already about the introduction. I don't know how to add the pop-ups where I can link that on this video, but it's on my YouTube channel. And I think it's titled like introduction training or team training on the introduction or something like that. But we're going to go ahead and go through it right now. So just to recap here, this is what we're going over. This is the introduction. We're going to go down from like this part on in the next couple of videos and go over in depth on the middle of the script and then again on the close. But this one is just going to be this first page, just the introduction. Once you start talking about the beneficiary to me, you're past the introduction, right? So let's just go over it real quick. So, hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. This is Joseph. I was just giving you a quick call here from the Veterans Benefits Office, FFL. How are you doing today, sir? All right, perfect. So this call is just in regards to that request you had submitted for the new final expense and life options for veterans. I'm just the medical underwriter that's been assigned to your file. I have your date of birth listed here as January 1st, 1950. Is that correct? All right, perfect. And then it also says on my side here for the military status that you received an honorable discharge. So thank you so much for the service, Mr. Bob. Yes, sir. We don't take it lightly at all. And then, side note, if it says on the lead like Army, Navy, Marine Corps, whatever, I'm going to say, thank you so much for your service. I see you were in the United States Army, and it looks like you had received an honorable discharge. So thank you for the service. Or sometimes they'll say retired. I'll say, I see you are a retired veteran. Like whatever, if you have information in the lead, use it to your advantage, right? And then with this part right here, we're reading this. You read this part right here in the tone I'm about to use. Or at least I do. I read it like concerned and a curious tone, right? So now, was your main concern, like most veterans, just wanting to make sure that the funeral expenses don't fall a burden on any of your loved ones? And I'm almost like leaning in as I say it, right? Was your main concern, like most veterans, just wanting to make sure that the funeral expenses didn't fall a burden on any of your loved ones? Okay, got it. And were you also looking to try and leave something extra behind as well, or mostly just worried about getting those expenses covered? I know that last little part right there is in the script, but that's how I typically say it. I'll say, now, are you also looking to try and leave something extra behind as well, or mostly just worried about getting those expenses covered? And a lot of the times, unless they're like, now I'm not interested, if they're talking about, then they are looking into this. They'll say something like, well, a little extra wouldn't hurt, or yeah, maybe it kind of depends on what it costs, or be like, or sometimes they'll just be like, nope, just getting the expenses covered. And it's like, all right, no matter what they say, it's just like, all right, perfect, sir. That is simple enough. And then it's so God forbid if something did happen to you and you were to pass away, and then you're into the next thing, right? Keeping that same curious tone, just as a side note, but we're going to go over this in the next video. We're going to focus on the introduction here. So, first thing to notice here is that when I'm saying, in my very, very first thing I say, hey, Bob, I'm almost like it's kind of like I'm like a friend calling a friend that I haven't spoken to in a long time, and they might not have my phone number saved, right? Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. This is Joseph. I was just giving you a quick call here from the Veterans Benefits, FFL. How are you doing today, sir? All right, perfect. So this call is just in regards to that request you had submitted for the new final expense and life options for veterans. I'm the medical underwriter assigned to your file. And you notice another thing too, especially in the introduction, you want to talk loud and you want to talk as clearly as you can. Very like focus really on using your mouth when you speak, not mumbling, not slurring your words, not having a lisp. Speak as clearly as you can. Use your tongue, use your lips. Like you really want to enunciate very properly, and you want to speak loud. Again, selling final expense, we are mostly talking to older people. They cannot hear you well. If you talk to an old lady in person, you will probably slow down and you'll probably speak louder, right? Do that on the phone. I feel like that's common sense, but I just want to say that like speak loudly and speak slowly and speak very clearly. They have to understand you. If they don't understand what you're talking about, why you're calling them, they're going to hang up the phone. A confused mind is always going to say no. So again, it's professional, it's familiar sounding, it's loud, it's clear, you're enunciating your words. That is, take anything away from this, that's it. And if you think you're speaking too fast, you're definitely speaking too fast. Even if you don't think you're speaking too fast, you're probably speaking too fast. This is my speed right here. Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. This is Joseph. I was just giving you a quick call here from the Veterans Benefits, FFL. How are you doing today, sir? All right, perfect. So this call is just in regards to that request you had submitted for the new final expense and life options for veterans. I'm the medical underwriter that's been assigned to your file here. I have your date of birth listed as January 1st, 1950. Is that correct? All right, perfect. And then it also says on my side for the military status that you received an honorable discharge. So thank you for your service. And then was your main concern, like most veterans, just wanting to make sure that the funeral expenses don't fall a burden on any of your loved ones? And then, so I think I've kind of hit the main points here on how to say it, the speed to say it, the tonality, the cadence, that sort of stuff. What I really want to focus on in this video here is obviously kind of went through why this is important, but I want to focus on the objections that you're inevitably going to get and then how I respond to them, right? So I would say about 30% of my deals that I sell now, like one in every three roughly, they're just like, yep, I was looking for that. The other 2/3, and those are the laydowns, right? Those are pretty much the easy deals anybody's going to get, right? You get it, you dial enough, you're going to get deals in this industry, which is amazing. However, I'd say about 2/3 of my deals, they give me a little bit of pushback in the beginning, whether they give me an objection, whether they already have coverage or they don't remember filling it out. And you're able to kind of handle that objection and convert that into a good lead when it didn't seem like a good lead at first, right? That's what separates a bad salesperson from a good salesperson. Anybody can sell laydowns, and you can make honestly pretty decent money just selling laydowns if you grind your ass off. But obviously, we want to get better, right? So, first, and again, one thing I want to point out too, just mentally realize there's three things we're doing in this introduction. We're getting their attention. Hey, Bob, we're explaining who we are and why we're calling, right? About the final expense and life options for veterans. I'm the medical underwriter. My name is Joseph Connolly. And then we're confirming the intention of the call, which is why they need life insurance, right? So you have to get through the introduction, you have to get past that first yes, right? Whether that's getting coverage for the burial cremation, adding coverage, getting cheaper coverage, getting coverage for somebody else, like whatever it is, there has to be a, oh, okay, perfect, right? So or like something that they're looking for that you're calling to help them with. They have to give you that first yes. You can't just be like, no, I wasn't looking for that. Okay, so who's your beneficiary going to be? Like, obviously, that doesn't make any sense, right? So first thing I want to go over, which you'll get frequently, which is annoying, and I'd say typically doesn't really. It's like probably the objection that goes somewhere the least amount of times is if they're looking for anything else, right? If they're looking for disability, if they're looking for free programs, if they're looking for income, whatever they're looking for from the VA, financial assistance, sometimes you'll get stuff like that. And they think that our ad was about that. So what I'll do, I'll say something like this, or I'll say, do you currently, well, though, so what this is, sir, is this is a part of the benefits that gives you access to the discounted rates for the final expense and the life options. Do you currently have anything in place that'll cover the cost of your burial or cremation for your family? Or I tell this story all the time. And you can use this even throughout the script or for other objections or whatever. So I'll tell a story like this where I'll say, Well, yes, sir. So the reason why they have these out there now is because a lot of veterans were under the impression that the VA covers the entire cost of their burial or cremation, which sadly is not the case. They do cover the cost of the plot and the headstone, but they don't pay for the entire burial. Were you planning on being buried or cremated one day? Okay, buried. Do you know what that costs? And then like, let them answer, 10 grand, whatever. But yeah, so it's usually anywhere on the very, very low end, eight to $10,000. On the high end, 15 to 20,000. Just really depending on the overall fanciness of the service and the type of celebration and casket or urn that the family goes with. And then, Mr. Bob, do you currently have anything in place that would cover that cost for your family? Or was that part of the reason why you had filled this out? And then kind of try to, and that's a good way to dig out the, oh, I do have coverage or I don't have coverage, and then you can move on, right? Um, if they're like, okay, I already, no, I wasn't looking for that. I already have coverage in place for that. Perfect. So the whole goal when you get that, I'd say like 20 to 30 to maybe 40, half my deals, they already have some life insurance coverage. So I sell people all the time that have, especially like 10,000 to that 10 to 20,000, or even people that have like $100,000 of coverage. And there's two different ways I'm going to go about this, right? So the first thing, when they say that they're good because they already have coverage, your first goal is going to be to figure out how much, and this is for me, figure out how long ago they got it in place, and then also how much coverage they have, right? Like, okay, perfect, sir. It's something you can add in here. Like, so I can go ahead and get your file updated then. How much have you gotten that in place recently, or have you had it for a while? Okay. And then how much coverage do you currently have? Okay. What's your monthly premium? And if they've gotten it within the last year or two and you can beat the price, obviously you can go that route, right? Of trying to undercut their existing policy and get them the same or more coverage for the cheaper or same price, right? Like you could do more coverage if we have better rates than the carrier they got set up with. You could do more coverage for the same price, which is probably the route I would go. Or if they are happy with how much coverage they have and they just want to save money, and you can get them $20,000 of coverage for 20, 30, $50 less a month. Obviously, you can just replace the policy and steal that and get the business that way. But say, for an example, I'm going to say in the first example that they say, oh, I have, $10,000 of coverage in place. So if it's under $25,000 of coverage, I'm going the route of framing the question. It's all about asking the proper questions in the introduction, right? You should be able to ask questions to dig and dig and dig and figure out why they might need this coverage. They might not need the coverage. And if they don't need the coverage, then you don't want to waste your time or theirs, right? So if say they have under $25,000 of coverage, I'm going to say, okay, were you planning on being buried or cremated one day? If they plan on being buried, great, because that's more expensive, right? I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to use the example here if they have 10,000. So you have 10,000 coverage. Okay. And were you planning on being buried or cremated? Say they say buried. I'll say, okay, perfect. So then, and you know what burials typically cost? They'll probably say around 10,000. Be like, well, now when's the last time you checked into it? Oh, 5 years ago. Be like, yeah. So as you probably noticed over the last 5 years, pretty much everything's gone up a lot in price thanks to inflation. So, and then nowadays burials can be as high as 15 or 20,000. So I'm assuming with this request here, you were just looking to add some additional coverage using your discount to make sure that that entire cost is covered, and then maybe leave some extra money behind for other bills and expenses as well. Is that correct, sir? All right, perfect. And then God forbid, if you passed away, boom, moving off the introduction, right? If they say they want to be cremated and they do have enough for a cremation, or even if they have enough for a burial, I'll say it like this: like, okay, perfect. So you have 25,000 in place now. Okay. So that should cover a burial, or if they have 10,000, like, okay, so that should just about cover the cremation, or that should just about cover the burial. But of course, since everything's gone up in price, it might be more expensive in the future, and it probably won't leave a ton of extra money behind. So then I assume when you filled this out, you were just looking to add some additional coverage using your discount to leave some extra money behind to replace your income whenever you pass away. So your spouse, your kids aren't struggling to pay for the house and other bills that may pop up. Is that correct, sir? So it's just, I'm assuming, right? I'm assuming, oh, okay. So you have this. Oh, then that's why you filled this out, right? Oh, I get you, sir. I get you, Mr. Bob, right? That's kind of the attitude I have, is like, they filled this out for coverage and it's our job to figure out why they need the coverage. And I'm going to try to frame the questions to where it's always going to be something where they need the coverage for, right? Income replacement. When somebody passes away, especially if they're old and they're on a fixed income, their wife won't typically get all of their social security or disability from the VA. They sometimes get like a percentage of it. You can Google this. I believe it's like 50%, depending on the disability level or how long they've been married. There's factors that go into it. And I don't know 100%. I probably should know that, but they don't keep all their income. So, if somebody's, you got to think about it like this, is if a husband and wife are bringing in 4 grand a month, they have $3,500 a month in bills, and then he dies and they lose 2 grand of that income, she's going to be short, right? So you can kind of pitch it, ask the proper questions to frame it like they need coverage to replace the income whenever he passes away. That way his wife isn't struggling to keep up with the mortgage, doesn't have to lose the house or sell the house in a fire sale, something like that. Now let's go back to this example where they say, I already have coverage. Say they're like, I have $100,000 of coverage. Obviously, this is somebody who needs it less than somebody who has 10,000 or no coverage, right? But I'm still going to try. So say they have $100,000 in coverage. Like, all right, perfect. So with this request here, you were just looking to add something using your discount specifically to cover the cost of the burial or cremation. That way, the $100,000 of coverage that you have in place now doesn't have to be used to pay off the burial and can be used as an inheritance and to pay for the house and other things like that. Okay, perfect. And then again, move on, right? And then if you've tried everything you can, right? You're asking about adding coverage, additional coverage, leaving money behind for the family, anyone specific, leaving money for the kids for college or grandkids for college, money behind to help cover the debt, the mortgage, car notes. Look up I could do a whole video on mortgage protection, look up mortgage protection and how that works with life insurance. Well, the quick version is, especially with old people, you can sell it to where it's like, all right, say your mortgage is $2,000 a month. We'll get you a $24,000 policy to cover the mortgage for 1 year. That way, when you pass away, your wife has a year of mortgage payments squared away. That way, she doesn't have to rush into selling the house. And even if she's not going to be able to afford the house long term without your income, it gives her time to sell the house properly and get all her equity out and not have to lose the house to the bank. Because the longer somebody's had a house, actually, and this is true, the bank is less likely to work with you because you have more equity in the house. So if they're able to default on the mortgage and take the house, they make way more money versus somebody who just bought a house. If you're missing some mortgage payments, they'll probably wait a while to foreclose because if they take the house back, they're probably going to lose money outright. So you would think it's the opposite, but it's not because banks obviously are in it to make money. Income replacement's a really good one. And then, if they're still not biting, you're just like, you've asked about, okay, what is she going to be able to replace your income, or do you want to get coverage to replace your income to help with the mortgage, bills, other things like that? No. Do you have any car payments that would need to be paid off if you passed away? No. And you weren't looking to add any coverage to adjust for inflation to cover the entire cost of the burial. Do you have anybody in your life, like your kids, your wife, that you would need to be looking to leave money to leave a legacy behind? No. Okay. Well, then if you don't mind me asking, sir, like when you filled this request out, what exactly were you looking to accomplish? Were you looking to see if you could get a better rate on your existing coverage? Were you looking to add some coverage to help the family out when you pass one day? Is there anybody you want to leave money behind to? Try everything. And eventually I'm just going to be like, well, sir, what the hell did you fill this out for? I'm almost like, I'm going to act very confused if they keep telling me no. It's like, well, like what, you know what I mean? Like, well, I'm in the life insurance department. What did you fill this lead out for? I'm not going to say lead, but form or request or whatever you want to say. So yeah, that's the main thing is, again, if tons of people already have coverage, it's not bad. People that already have coverage, they've bought insurance once before. They're more likely to buy it again. They're easier sales to me. So they have a small amount of coverage. I'm essentially asking the questions to pitch them on, and then you want to make it seem like it's their idea, right? So it's like, oh, okay, I got you. So then you have 10,000 now. Okay. You were planning on being buried and that can be 15, 20 grand. Okay. So then when you filled this out, you were probably like most veterans I talked to, where you're just looking to add like an additional 5, 10, or 15,000 just to make sure that the entire burial cost is covered and maybe leave some extra money behind as well. Is that correct? All right, perfect. Or if it's a big amount of coverage, oh, I gotcha. So you're probably like most veterans I talk to. Again, I'm gonna use that a lot. You're probably like most people that I talk to where since you have some $100,000 or $50,000 of coverage in place now, you were probably with this request, were you just looking to add something specifically to cover those final expenses? That way, the $50,000 of coverage that you have can be used for the mortgage, house, and to leave a legacy behind. All right, perfect. And kind of like separating in their mind, I have a policy for this. This is for the final expenses, and I have this other policy for, whatever else, leaving money behind, paying off the house, stuff like that, leaving inheritance. I don't remember filling this out. That one, I'm just going to confirm their information with them. But yeah, no, I get that all the time, sir. I'm going to kind of laugh. Like, yeah, no, I totally understand, sir. I get that all the time. It only takes a minute or so to fill out. So a lot of people forget that they did do this online. But just to make sure, this is Mr. Johnson. I have your date of birth as January 1st, 1950, and you live in California. Is that correct? All right, perfect. And then I'll explain what we do, maybe tell that story about how veterans don't realize that the burial coverage isn't completely done by the VA, and that's why they have these programs, an opportunity to vet for veterans to get discounted rates as a to for their final expenses, right? Um, Primary goal of the introduction is just to get to the next part, building where you start building on the why and talking about the best beneficiary. So once you have that affirmative yes, you want to move on obviously as quickly as possible. Um, and like, you will get plenty of them where it's like, was your main concern, like most veterans, just wanting to make sure that the funeral expenses don't fall a burden on any of your loved ones? Like you'll probably hear yes to that, and that'll be your first 5 to 10 deals. But then as you get better and better, you need to be able to ask questions to dig out all the reasons of why they could possibly need coverage. And I like to come at it from the attitude of, hey, they filled this out, and it's my job to figure out why they actually need it, right? Life insurance is the product everybody's going to use because everybody's going to fucking die. So feel like, and you have to have conviction in what you're doing in order to be a good salesperson. So that's the first step. Also, I don't know if I talked about that in the mindset video, but you have to have conviction in what you're selling. And life insurance is a product that 60% of Americans have, and everyone that has it is going to use it because everyone's going to die, right? And it really can help people in, especially like these middle to lower middle class families that we sell for the most part. Like they, they don't have 15, $20,000, or their wife doesn't, other, disabled 75-year-old wife isn't going to have that kind of money, right? She's going to have to borrow it from somebody, or they're just going to have a city funeral and not be able to pay the respects, right? So, and they lose the income. So income replacement, adding coverage. Why does this keep minimizing? All those sort of things are really good questions to ask. So again, those are like the main introduction objections you'll get. And obviously we have the ways to overcome them in the script as well. These are good too, right? The more things you can have in your quiver, the better, right? The more word tracks, the more objection responses, because you might say something once and it not work, then say it again a different way and it works, right? So like, for example, I already have coverage in place. Perfect. Glad you had that taken care of. So you were just looking to leave some extra money behind for the loved ones then, correct? Like you want to try everything before you give up on that lead. And then, of course, if they have coverage in place already and you can beat it, then do it, right? So, and this is a good kind of script for that. So a lot of veterans send this in to utilize their discount. Did you get that through the veterans benefits, or did you get it through like a private carrier? Okay, how much coverage do you have? When did you get that in place? How much are you paying on a monthly basis? Okay, got it. And then if say you punch it in the quoter and you can beat the price, then I'm typically going to say something like, do you have any really serious cancer? Have you had any like brain aneurysms, brain tumors, anything like that, sir? Oh, okay. I'm trying to kind of see why you are paying so much. I'm assuming you didn't get a veteran's discount with that, did you, sir? No? Okay. Well, I think we might be able to save you a little bit of money here or get you a better, coverage amount for what you're paying for, sir. And then I'll just continue on with the script, right? So obviously these are all good. I like, again, with a lot of these, telling the story. If they're busy, you can reschedule the call, but a lot of times people will say they're busy and they're not busy. So I always that's usually a smokescreen 9 out of 10 times. So don't fall for the busy thing. Like if you genuinely hear they're in a grocery store, you can hear or you hear they're driving, or you hear a bunch of background noise, like that might be a call you want to reschedule. But even if it's like that, I'm typically going to go a little further and say something like this. So, okay, no worries, Mr. Johnson, I can call you back, or you vice versa. Obviously, I want to help you out with your request here. But before we schedule a time, just so I know, when you had filled this out, was your main concern just wanting to make sure that you got the burial expenses covered, or were you trying to leave some extra money behind for your family? Because I'm not going to waste my time scheduling a follow-up call and calling that person if they don't even know this is about life insurance and that's not even what they're looking for. Like, oh no, I've got that all covered. Then I'll try to overcome it and try to blah, 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 figure out why they might need coverage. Then you can still reschedule it. But you don't want to reschedule a call where there's like, hey, I can't talk right now. Okay, should I call you tomorrow at 5 p.m.? Like, that's a waste of time. So at least confirm the intention. And also you can also ask, like, okay, and then just so I know when we talk next time, did you want to be buried or cremated one day? Okay, got it. Even if you just ask that, just so they know this is about final expenses or insurance or burial or something like that, right? So you have an idea. Um, but also you can just hit them with this, like, okay, perfect. However, this is the only time slot we have available. We are super backed up. There are 7 million retired veterans in this country who need this sort of help. So this should only take like 15 minutes, sir. Is that okay? Okay, got it. And then continue on. Um, and then again, if they say this is not true unless they have like special honors as a veteran, or they have like a good high 100% disability and plus like special honors. Most veterans don't get the whole burial thing paid for. They only cover the plot and the headstone. And you can look that up. It's true. So it still leaves a good bit behind the family has to cover. So obviously look these over. If you want this PDF or document right here, I can make a copy of it and send it out. Just text me, let me know. But yeah, I think that's with the introduction. That's really kind of all I wanted to go over. I didn't want to make this video super, super long. Just know, like with the introduction, the whole goal is to ask the proper questions. And you can sell plenty of insurance just reading the script, right? But you have to get better. You have to ask the proper questions in order to get that first yes and get on the same page with the client as to why they need this coverage, right? And that's going to be, if they have no coverage, obviously coverage for final expenses and maybe leaving money behind. If they have a small amount of coverage, it's adding coverage to make sure all of the costs are covered, maybe with the income replacement, leaving some extra money behind as well. If they have a lot of coverage, like 50K and up, then it's going to be about getting something specifically for the burial or cremation or specifically for the final expenses. And obviously, you can always leave extra money behind. Or if they already have coverage and they got it in place in the last few years, it's about maybe beating their rate. Or if they have something, you can ask. A lot of times I'll ask too, okay, in the coverage that you have now, have you had that in place for a while? Okay, perfect. And that's a term policy. That's I'll make sure it's not a term policy, right? And how I like to ask that is I just assume it is a term policy. So I'm gonna say, okay, so you're probably like most veterans I talk to, where since you have some coverage in place, but it's most likely going to expire one day, since it's probably a term policy, it's going to stop covering you at age 70, 75, or 80. So you were just looking to get something here that was permanent. That way it didn't ever expire. Is that correct? All right, perfect. And that's another big one. I didn't have it written down here, but you want to ask if their existing coverage is as a term policy, and I'll usually just assume it is, right? That's probably like most veterans I talk to that fill these out, where you have a term policy in place now that's going to stop covering you in a few years, and you just wanted to make sure that for whenever you outlive that you had something permanent, like a whole life policy that's always going to be good to protect your family and cover those expenses. Was that the case, sir? All right, perfect. That's another word track or question you can throw in there, but it's all about asking the proper questions to dig out the potential reason why they might need life insurance or more life insurance. So work on the questions, be curious, be assumptive. And yeah, again, speak loudly, slowly, and clearly.